Year 2 of the Clash at the Coliseum is in the books. Martin Truex Jr. begins this year with a bang, but RCR, Richard Childress Racing, makes quite a statement of their own. We're talking all things Clash. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to a late night out of the groove. As of the time this is being recorded, it is about 1:30 on the East Coast. Luckily, I'm on the West Coast. I'm coming at you, as you can see, from a messy hotel in the greater Los Angeles area. I'm not gonna be any more specific than that. I'm still gonna be out here in California for an extra couple of days, but I wanted to record my quick thoughts on tonight's Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum. I apologize if this video goes any sort of direction. Typically, I edit the crap out of these videos. I edit. I cut out every deviation from my topic or my point. You're not getting that much tonight. We're just gonna kind of take things as they come, as my brain thinks of them. But I wanna talk about the event a little bit first before we get into some of the actual things that happen on the racetrack, because I've been to both Clashes now. I went to last year's Clash at the Coliseum, the premiere 2022 that Joey Logano won, with Pitbull and Ice Cube doing live performances. DJ Ski, I still remember DJ Ski, I'll never forget him. This year, I went back because I wanted to see what they would do differently, if they would try anything new, if they would make any improvements or changes based on feedback from last year's event. And I'm happy to say that for the most part, I think today's event was better. I think the number one most important and best change was making it a night race. The main event began right about at dusk and ended under the lights beautifully. The torch, the flame being lit on the peristyle looked great at night. The fireworks, the pyrotechnics, the halftime show with Wiz Khalifa, like, he sounded good, might have been lip syncing, I don't know, but it looked great too because it was at night. The atmosphere was, I think, better than last year's atmosphere, even though the crowd was probably a little bit smaller. I don't think they sold quite as many tickets this year as they did last year, but it wasn't far off. I think it was very comparable. So I think switching this to a night race was a huge improvement. I think the way they laid out parts of this event were better as well. Like outside the track, last year in the Exposition Park area, it was kind of small. They had all the merch haulers, a few vendors. This year, though, they had a big stage set up where throughout the morning, every single team and their drivers would go up on stage and would do Q&As in front of the fans. Anyone who had a ticket could go and watch and attend. And from what I understand, there were a lot of opportunities to grab autographs and maybe even photos with some of your favorite drivers. They moved all the merch haulers to this separate area. It was kind of hard to get to, but it was spread out. So they definitely went bigger this year. Switching it to a night race was an improvement. And I mentioned Wiz Khalifa a moment ago, but I think the entertainment was actually really good as well. I don't know the name of the DJ or the DJ group they had tonight, but they were, they got their money's worth with the number of cautions, especially we had in the second half of this race. The Dixie D'Amelio cameo is random. Cypress Hill, I know I gave them a little grief when they were announced for being maybe an older group, but I thought they sounded great. Visually, they were up on that small little stage surrounded by like photographers mostly who weren't hyped, weren't moving at all. So I felt like the vibe was kind of static, but they sounded great, and Wiz Khalifa was fantastic. My favorite cameo of the day, though, was Chavo, the bassist from System of a Down, one of my favorite bands in college, was performing with Cypress Hill. I was stoked to see him in all of his glory at a NASCAR race. But the entertainment was good. I think the way the event was spread out, the fact that the gates opened at 10, but everything started later, so you had more time to take it all in, I thought that was great, that was better. And the fact that this was a night race, ultimately, huge improvement. So year 2 of the Clash, I think, was an improvement over year 1. With that being said, let's talk about some of the on-track stuff. And I know typically in these videos, I would go really in depth. I'd show you guys the top 10 leaders or the finishers, top 20 finishers maybe. We put this thing on the groovy gauge, all that good stuff. I'm gonna keep things very simple for this video because it is extremely late and I am exhausted. I'll start with this. The heat races I thought were fantastic. The one battle that really stands out to me was Chase Elliott versus Kevin Harvick, battling for like 7th through most of their heat race, trading blows back and forth, and then Stenhouse got involved, and ultimately it was Kevin Harvick edging Chase Elliott by this much to get the final transfer spot. The crowd was into it. The crowd was really hyped for that. So I thought the heat races by and large were fantastic, not too sloppy, still competitive, lots of passes for the lead, good drama. The LCQs, especially the second one, dragged a bit. I do think making the LCQs 50 laps little too long. Like there's a heightened sense of urgency knowing that's your last chance to get in the show. Feels like you should play into that by shortening the distance a bit. The second LCQ especially dragged on, so I would make that change going forward if they're going to continue a similar format. But yeah, all the heat races, all the stuff leading up to the main event, really good racing, really competitive. I really had no significant considerable complaints. The main event, first half was good. I thought the first half of the race was fantastic. It breezed by pretty quick. A couple of incidents, notably Denny Hamlin, who was up front at one point, gets kind of booted from the lead. There was a stack up behind him. It ends up being Bubba Wallace, Hamlin's teammate, or not teammate, I guess, but the car that Hamlin owns, knocking him out of the lead. Hamlin stuck on the high side, fell back, gets turned by, you guessed it, Ross Chastain. New year, they still can't get away from each other. So Denny Hamlin's first half of the race was like a Shakespearean tragedy of sorts. Let's talk about the second half of the race, because that's where things got really interesting. I think pretty much everyone watching in person on TV was enjoying the first half of the race. Anyone who was watching with an open mind, I should say. There are certainly fans that will never get over the fact that this isn't happening at Daytona Beach, the fact that it's in Los Angeles, a quarter-mile short track inside of a stadium. There's a portion of fans who will never get past that. But if you went into this with any sort of an open mind, chances are you were enjoying what you were seeing the first half of this race. The second half of the main event got a little sloppy, especially like outside the top 10. It felt like you had a bunch of drivers trying to be heroes from 15th place and just embarrassing themselves, which to me, if you're racing for 15th place in an exhibition race, your only job is to not make a fool of yourself. Like, even if you pull off that amazing 3-wide move, you're in 15th. Nobody's going to see it. Nobody cares. So a lot of the wrecks happening 1, 2, 3 laps after a restart were coming from mid-pack, and that was frustrating because the pace of tonight's show ground to a snail's pace. It ground to a halt. And I'll say this, I was in the stands, and I think I'm coming at this from somewhat of a unique perspective. I was with a couple of, I guess what you would call casual fans. So I brought my girlfriend to this race, who's really tried to get into NASCAR the last couple of years that I've known her, but before I met her, she knew nothing about racing, absolutely nothing. But this is her second race, she enjoyed it, but kind of a casual fan. I also brought my sister, who, if you've watched my channel for a long time, you might be loosely familiar with her, but she recently moved out to Los Angeles for work, so I said, hey, you're coming to this race. She hadn't been to a NASCAR race since she was 6, I think. Barely remembers it, not a sports fan whatsoever, but I said, you're coming to this race. So I was in a unique position. I'm sitting there in the stands, and I'm not having fun seeing guys wreck after 2 laps, but I was worried that the 2 people I was with, who, I'm really trying to get them to like really appreciate and understand, like, this is NASCAR, look how hyped this is. Yeah, I was just getting bothered because it wasn't a good show at this point. I didn't want to lose their interest. And this is an event that I think is meant to appeal to the casual fan, the person who's loosely familiar with NASCAR but probably doesn't watch it with any sort of regularity, who maybe came out because it's something to do on a Sunday, it's in a historic venue, maybe you're a fan of Wiz Khalifa and you wanted to see him live. Like, this event is built for the potential fan or the casual fan. So I was with a couple of what I consider to be potential or casual fans, and so I was very sensitive to anything that wasn't a good show. And yes, the second half of this race, by and large, was not a good show. And it cleaned up a little bit towards the end. Congratulations to Martin Truex Jr. I guess I'll pivot now to actually how people did. Martin Truex Jr. getting the win, happy for him, because the end of 2022 was a disaster. He did not have a bad season last year. I know he didn't win, but he was like 5th in the regular season standings, misses the playoffs, but still has the speed. Leading at Darlington, power steering failure, whatever it was. He blows a tire while leading at Texas, and then was at Homestead. He's leading the race, coming onto pit road, and sun's in his eyes, whatever, makes a mistake and gets spun. So last year was just so sad to see Truex's season whimper to an end. So it's pretty cool to see him enter this year with a big win, a big victory. Happy for Truex and that team. As happy as I was for Martin Truex Jr. to get this win, I was equally sad or disappointed, or I would just say, I felt for Ryan Preece. Ryan Preece, he's got his opportunity. He's in the 41 car full time. This is a competitive Cup Series seat, and last year he was in the 15 car in this race and ran pretty well. He was fairly competitive in a Rick Ware car. I think got a lot of people's attention. In an SHR car, we wondered if he could actually contend for the win, and sure enough, he led a good portion of the main event tonight. First time in that car. first time in the 41, he was leading, showing off some of those modified skills, if you ask me. But then it sounded like he was battling some sort of electrical issue towards the end. Maybe allowed Truex to catch him. Then he kind of faltered, maybe had some sort of sputter or hiccup. I don't know where he ended up finishing. It was somewhere in the top 10, I believe, but he did not get the podium finish that I thought he deserved. I guess now on the flip side of that, Richard Childress Racing left an impression tonight. Austin Dillon was competitive all night long. As my phone blows up, it's like midnight. Why are people still texting me? Sorry about that. But Austin Dillon was up in the top 5 all night long. I know he got into it a little bit with Bubba Wallace. I don't know what the score is there. I don't know if Bubba had a right to be upset or if Dillon had a right to be upset. I don't know. I was sitting in the stands. It felt like every wreck. It was like 4 cars piling into each other. So I don't know the details there. But Austin Dillon was fast, was competitive, had a chance to win. And his new teammate, Kyle Busch, in my opinion, was the best part of the second half of this race. He gets spun while running up in the top 5, top 6, top 7 by Joey Logano, who then kind of apologized after the race. But now Kyle Busch is in last with like 60 laps to go. He's out, right? No chance. Lots of cautions, lots of restarts. Kyle Busch passing guys on the inside and outside. There are only 2 drivers tonight who I saw consistently make passes on the outside. Kyle Busch, and I'll throw in Ryan Preece. He got the lead by beating, I think, was it Bowman? Or Bubba, perhaps, on the outside lane. I forget who it was. But Kyle Busch was a joy to watch in the second half of this race. Got all the way up to second. I thought on that final restart he was going to beat Martin Truex Jr. And then I don't know what happened. He fell back to third, shockingly. But Kyle Busch was a lot of fun. First race with RCR, gets a podium, gets a bronze medal. RCR, 2 of the top 3 positions. That's a story. I know this race is kind of weird, kind of wacky. But that's a story for RCR to come out with such strong results with a great finish. It's also a story that a team like RFK misses the main show for the second year in a row. I don't know what to say about that. But congrats to RCR. And of course to Martin Truex Jr. for getting the overall win. Those are just a handful of drivers that I did want to spotlight here tonight. There were a number of drivers that did well. I guess I'll leave it at that. Again, I know this episode was very stream of consciousness, and I think you can even hear people yelling in the hallway. Do you hear that? Am I crazy? Thin walls. That's why I'm keeping my voice down and trying not to make this video go any longer than it has to. But, I was going to end the episode and I totally forgot like the biggest question that I wanted to answer when I started this. See, this is why I edit these videos. You know, a lot of planning goes into these episodes because I want to make sure I don't miss anything. But should this become a points race? That's the story. Because Auto Club Speedway, we found out this weekend, will not return next season. They're going to begin the overhauling process of turning it into a short track, so it will not be on the 2024 schedule. Everyone's just talking about what's going to replace it, and the rumor is the Clash at the Coliseum will become a points race. My response to that is no. I've enjoyed the Clash the last 2 years. It's been a fun event. It's been a great exhibition race, but that's what it should stay as, an exhibition race. I don't think this should become a points race. It's just way too easy to dump someone and blame, oh, it's just tight quarters, or I got hit from behind. Like, again, the amount of wrecks I saw tonight that were 3 or 4 cars according on corner entry, it was like the 4th guy in line who messed up and caused the next guy to hit the next guy to hit the next guy and that guy to wreck. It's too much of this race is out of the driver's hands. And I know you can say Daytona and Talladega. There's a lot that is outside the driver's hands, and that is true, but I don't know, the Clash, the Coliseum, a quarter-mile flat track like this, it's a completely different beast. I don't mind the eliminations. I don't mind the heat races leading up, the LCQs. I don't mind any of that. You could take that to another venue, but a quarter-mile track like this, I think should remain an exhibition, and I hope it does. Whether they stick at the Coliseum, they take this abroad, they take this to another stadium in the U.S. I like the idea of stadium racing and continuing this experiment, but not as a points race. I think it should stay an exhibition. That's gonna do it. Thank you so much for watching. I was also blown away by the support at the track today. I ran into a handful of people who were wearing Out of the Groove t-shirts from Phoenix or crew shirts with my face on it. That absolutely mind-blowing. I truly appreciate the support, and I appreciate everyone who came up and said hi to me during the race today. The season is officially here. Today felt like just a small taste of what's to come. Lots of big and better things on the horizon in 2023. No groovy gauge tonight, I'm sorry. Keeping this video very simple, very straightforward, but come Daytona, these race review episodes will be back to their former glory. So Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for sticking with me. Let me know what you think. I don't think I mentioned that yet. I asked that, but I always read the comments. I want to know what you guys thought of tonight's race. If you're watching at home or if you were also in the grandstands, let me know what you thought of the show. I definitely want to hear your opinions on that. Okay, that's the last thought. My camera is telling me it's out of battery, and I forgot to bring my other battery, so I'm gonna leave it at that. Thanks for watching, y'all. Again, leave your comments down below. I appreciate the support. I will see you all when I'm back in the studio here in the next couple of days. Have a great one, y'all. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Turn this thing off before it shuts me down.